I didn't go on a vacation until I was 24.
Okay.
We didn't have money. Like, that was not an option at all.
Hello, and welcome to Amplify Voices, where we highlight Black voices around the world that are making an impact within their respective industries. My name is Ivie Ani, and I'm your host. Today, I am so excited and honored to be joined by the truth-speaking, blonde Bronx beauty with a fire pen, Ivie Ani, a Nigerian-American journalist, writer, editor, media personality, on-air host, and culture critic. Her writing has been published in the New York Times, Teen Vogue, Paper Magazine, Complex Magazine, to name just a few. She landed her first job out of college at BET, working in production at 106 & Park, the Associated Press, and a music editor at OK Player. She has done all the things in all the places. Ivie, welcome to Amplified Voices. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so first things first, I love your name. I know that your background is Nigerian. So what is the translation of Ivie and what does that mean to you?
Mm-hmm. So Nigeria has hundreds of different ethnic groups. The most prominent ethnic groups that people are probably familiar with are Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, but Ivie is from the ethnic group Edo. So that's the Benin, where you know the Benin Empire, Benin Kingdom. That's where that group of people comes from, and that's my mother's side. My mother is Ishan.
Okay.
So Ishan is closely related to Edo. It's another ethnic group, but very closely related. Their languages are very similar. But my name is an Edo name. It is an actual bead, and the bead is almost coral color. And Ivie strictly translates to precious gem or precious jewel. And that's what it is. It's a coral bead. It was worn by royalty in the past. It was worn by kings. Ivie is not an uncommon name in Edo. You might find a bunch of different Ivies. There's an actress named Ivie. But here, people,
it's unique.
When they hear my name, it's like the first name that they've ever heard, the first name that they met. But
oh, I know. There's got to be 2, 3, 4 in there. But yeah, I love that. So vibrant gem. That's what you are. That's beautiful. Now, Ivie, I'm curious to know, what were you like as a child?
Pretty reserved, quiet, I would say. I think other people would say the same. I didn't really do much as a kid. School was my main priority.
Yeah.
It was the one constant thing in my life. So I paid really close attention to school, and I was really good at school. It's the thing I was good at, learning.
Yeah, and trust me, as an African, I already know that was always the emphasis. It was school before anything, which as a kid was frustrating sometimes. But I think now as an adult, when you look back and reflect, at least for me, I'm extremely grateful that my parents pushed education as hard as they did. So tell me, do you have a childhood vacation that like stands out as your favorite or that you remember?
I didn't go on a vacation until I was 24.
Okay.
We didn't have money. Like, that was not an option at all.
Yeah.
That was it. I didn't really start traveling until I was an adult for work.
Yeah. So where did you go when you were 24? What was the first vacation?
I went to Jamaica, and I went to Jamaica for 2 weeks. That was a very long vacation. And I went with one of my friends. She is Jamaican, so she would go back every year. And it was just good to be with someone who's from that.
Yes. So tell me, how do you think people would describe their first impression of you?
First of all, they think I'm going to be taller when they meet me in person.
Yeah. How tall are you?
And I'm 5'4", 5'5". But I thought you would be taller. I think that I think I come off very serious. But I think that's true. I am serious, but I think people probably think that I'm not very approachable. I'm really conversational. I'll have a conversation with anyone. People usually stop me in the street if they follow my work or they follow me online. I'm always going to have a conversation with someone, no matter where it is, a party, a panel, anywhere.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to get a little personal. What is the worst habit that you have?
Wanting to do something the right way and wanting to be properly researched and just properly planned out. So that is probably my worst habit. On a personal note, I'm very indecisive when it comes to small things like what to eat, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Super indecisive when it comes to little things like that. You know, if I'm at the supermarket, it'll take me a million years to just get something from the supermarket.
I'm the same way. So just a couple tips for what I do. So one, I have to have a shopping list, point blank, period.
Yep.
That has to happen. Second, the other day, I actually used Instagram. I did an IG poll of what I should eat for dinner, what I should order. I put like my 5 options, and whatever got the most votes, I just went with that.
Whoever I'm with, if I'm with a group of people, then I'll ask them what I should eat. Or I always ask the waiter or the server what their best.
Oh yeah, what's popular? That's a good one too.
Yeah.
What do you currently have on repeat right now?
I love Pa Saloon. He's Gambian, but he's from the UK.
Okay.
He just put out a project called Send Them to Coventry. It's my favorite project right now. A lot of UK artists are on my radar. I love Victoria Monet. I think Victoria Monet is a really strong songwriter. Her last project was really, really good. I mean, I just put out a whole playlist. I think there's 80 songs on it of my best of 2020. And a lot of those songs I still have on rotation. So you could dig into that.
So was there a defining moment in your upbringing that led you on this path to your journalistic career?
I don't think there was a defining moment for me. I just knew that I was a good writer, and I wanted to think about ways in which I could have a long, expansive career. And I had switched that second major multiple times because I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And I ended up settling on Africana studies, which is where the social and cultural analysis comes from. But the reason why I chose journalism in the first place was because I couldn't think of any other career in writing that would make sense, be practical as a career choice. I wasn't going to be a novelist, you know, straight out of high school.
Right.
I wasn't going to be a literature teacher, you know. I felt like I had kind of the natural sensibilities of what that requires. And I felt like print journalism at the time made more sense, even though we're in a digital world and I do multimedia journalism. At the time, I didn't plan to be broadcast. I didn't plan to do anything other than write, but things changed. And I just thought, you know, I'm a good writer. I could be greater. And I wanted to just hone the skill of writing. So
what makes you truly unique, Ivie, in the media space is that you've worked as a writer, as a producer, as an editor, as an on-air host, and like we said earlier, quite frankly, all the things, and you're good at all of them. So how did those opportunities come about for you?
As soon as I graduated, I was working at BET. I had probably been working there for like a year because BET was my first and only internship. And then they hired me part-time. But at the time, I was still working my retail job at Forever 21 in Times Square. That is how I ended up on air for the first time. I was working on the production end on 106 in Park. My producer, Suzette Brown, shout out to Suzette Brown. I was more so kind of like helping on the talent scouting end and searching for hosts and people who could be on the show. And there was a really, really big episode coming up in regards to one of the extrajudicial killings that happened at the time where a cop killed a Black person. There were so many happening at that time. And this was about the verdict that was happening, the verdict that had just came out. We needed someone to speak on the legal ramifications of that and to speak on the social and cultural implications of that. So I had booked a criminal justice lawyer that I just knew at the time. I had booked her to speak on the show, but for some reason, I don't know what happened, but my editor, my producer was just like, "Oh, Ivie, can you do it?" And I was like, So then I went live on air on 106 in Park, and they put me on right after Barack Obama. So I'm just like, that's a tough act to follow. But but that was they interviewed me on air about the implications of that trial and what it meant. And it just so happens that I was heavily invested in those cases at the time, and I was going to protests. It fell in line with what I wanted to cover, which was beyond music, which was social and cultural issues. So I was equipped to talk about it, but I had never planned to be on-air talent. I had never planned to be an on-air commentator, but I kind of got thrown into it, and that was my first hurrah, and it worked. Shout out to Suzette Brown. Whatever she saw,
that's amazing,
in me, she gave me an opportunity really early. She hired me, you know, she gave me that internship. So shout out to her.
Now, you've been sort of in this media space for almost 10 years. So what is your perspective on all of the changes, and how have you been able to kind of keep up with them and continue to intentionally create purposeful work?
I think the biggest takeaway for me has been staying up to date and learning how to use all of these different tools, but not relying on them. I don't believe that your work should exist solely on Instagram, solely on Twitter, solely attached to these platforms that are huge now, that help a lot now. In 5 years from now, they're probably going to be gone, and there's going to be a new platform. So your work has to be able to stand outside of that. I think the advent of, or rather the proliferation of newsletters has been very interesting to watch, and people just pulling content from social media and taking everything off, not offline, but taking it to more insular communities rather than just keeping it out in the public. I think that's been very interesting to watch, and people have built very successful careers off of reporting via newsletters, you know, having a Patreon, having a Substack, having a tiny letter, and having a direct audience to cater to. Because at the end of the day, outlets are also not hiring, they're firing people. So people are out of traditional work, they're out of staff positions, so they're taking it upon themselves to just continue reporting, but it's kind of crowdsourced reporting.
Right. That's, wow, those are all facts. So speaking of newsletters then, you actually have a newsletter titled In Full Effect. So tell me a little bit about what that entails and why you started it.
And I started my newsletter, and it was well received. I'm in the middle of reviving it and moving it to a different platform. So it should be back. And I chose the name In Full Effect because in my NYU application, I think one of the requirements was to write a poem. You know, NYU is mad artsy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they one of the requirements was to write a poem. And I had titled that poem In Full Effect years ago.
Oh.
And yeah. And then I figured,
live for moments like this. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
That's really dope. That's beautiful.
In Full Effect is also just slang. Like, that's slang from before my time. I think that's 80s slang. It just means like, you know, it's on and popping, in full effect. This is what's going on. Everything is here. That's what it means. So I felt like it would be the perfect phrase to encapsulate everything that I wanted to talk about in a newsletter.
Yeah. And people can subscribe now, right? By going to your website?
Yeah, they can go on my website and they can subscribe, and I'll get your email. And then once I transition it to another platform, you'll get everything.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's awesome. Ivie, what's been the proudest moment of your career?
I don't really think of my career in moments. And that might be to my detriment. I think going back to your other questions, one of my worst habits is I don't celebrate anything.
I think that is critical, to celebrate yourself and to stop in moments. But when you are ambitious, it's tough because as soon as you complete something, you're on to planning the next one. But it is so crucial to sit in that moment and think like, wow, I did that.
Well, as of recently, I would say the end of 2019, the fact that I was able to take my work internationally and conceptualize and moderate panels in Nigeria and Ghana, I think that was a big moment, because it really put the stamp, I think, into my mind that, okay, now you're an internationally recognized journalist. And it's just registering that my work is recognized in all of these different places. And I have done work in all of these different places. So I think it took that moment for me to realize that, even though I had been building that up for a few years already.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations. And
Thank you.
that's just the start for you. While the numbers of women in media professions are growing, the industry has statistically been dominated significantly by men. So as a Black woman, have you experienced misogyny in your career, and how did you deal with that?
All of the job layoffs in media were layoffs of women. So many women in media were laid off. There's so many women who get pushed out before they get fired. They decide to leave the industry. All the issues that we deal with in real life that transcend the media industry, the misogyny, the sexism, non-equal pay, everything. It's just like, who hasn't experienced that? So I think the only thing that I have done to my betterment, to my detriment, is tell the truth about it. We know that it exists and we want it to stay the same as opposed to challenging it. And it becomes a big deal whenever someone speaks about it because it challenges the status quo, and it's such a basic concept. So many women have come forward and said the same thing. They're being mistreated, they're being underpaid. Now what? It's not about me. I'm only one person. So many different women have experienced the same things or worse. So all I've done to combat that is tell the truth. And hopefully it benefits everyone in the long run.
I definitely respect that. So as a writer, you're definitely an inspiration to me. So I'm curious, who are a couple of writers that you're inspired by?
I would definitely say Akweke Emeze. They, from Freshwater to Pet to the new books that they have out, I think they're really good. Creative style writing is inspiring to me because it helps with my reporting to do that type of storytelling. I love Vincent Brown. He is a Harvard professor of African and African-American studies, and he is a historian. Amazing storytelling as a historian to be able to do that and to not be boring at the end of the day, to be captivating, I think is something worth studying. I love Chinua Achebe, of course. I really, really love Toni Morrison. That's a standard for everyone, but her style of writing was just so on point and so succinct and so loaded and full. But there's so many different writers that I love. I like Bell Hooks. I like Angela Davis's writing. I love her essays.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's what I love so much about your list. It's so diverse, and it really kind of, it is showcased in your writing how like well-rounded you are, like, and your foundation that is apparent just from your writing style. Now, what are 3 books that you read for inspiration?
Something I read recently that inspired me was actually Mariah Carey's memoir.
Wow.
And
okay.
I love Mariah Carey. Everybody loves Mariah Carey, but
yeah.
Just learning about her childhood and how she became the way she is and why, I think was really inspiring to me. I saw some similarities in our backgrounds as well that I think was inspiring. You know, she comes from poverty. It was just like a very volatile background. She's also from New York. She's from Long Island, but that's still New York. She was huge when I was growing up. She's still huge now. She's never left, you know, she's never left the cultural, you know, zeitgeist to me. So just learning about her history and hearing her explain her background, I think that book was really inspiring. Memoirs are really inspiring to me, depending on who it is though. I read Dapper Dan's memoir recently too. That was really interesting. I love Dapper Dan.
That's great.
So
how would you describe your purpose?
Everything that I do, I'm just trying to communicate a message, communicate a truth, communicate whatever I think needs to be known. And I think I can also serve as a translator when need be. And that is a form of communication. I honestly just feel like I'm a communicator on an, within culture, within media. I think that I am a communicator.
Yeah, you are. I like that because it sounds so simple and yet it's so powerful, because without communicators, or communication, where would we be?
Yeah.
You're an exceptionally talented writer, and the way that you weave your words comes across intentional, like I've said several times. But tell me, what does your writing process even look like?
It starts with me just reading a bunch of different things. I'll probably just go into a rabbit hole of research and start reading articles, start listening to documentaries, podcasts, docuseries, whatever the topic is. I'll really get into like a deep dive of research first, which takes the bulk of my time. So everything that I wrote out just become random pieces to the puzzle, and I just have to fill them out with detail. And it takes a long time depending on what it is. I might have to sit with something for a month. Maybe I'm missing something that could help be the glue to it. If it's a profile piece, I can't sit and open up a document and just start writing my introduction and then start writing the next paragraph. Never has it ever been cohesive like that for me. I might write the conclusion before I even think of the intro, and I'm just constantly trying to put it together.
That's really an interesting way to look at it. What's your favorite topic to write about?
Well, I think people know me more for music or pay attention more to my music coverage, but I'm really into different social and cultural issues. I love covering local things local to New York. Definitely love human interest stories as well. I love a good profile. A good story can come from anywhere.
Absolutely.
So just everyday people, speaking to everyday people. There's so many different people worth speaking to and different stories worth being told. So I love interviews, and I love, those types of stories.
I definitely agree. I think something that makes me think of is Humans of New York. Like those stories of random people in the streets of New York are some of the most powerful. And I've been so invested in those stories as opposed to, some celebrity that you watch their movie. So absolutely. Now, 2020 was an unprecedented year, and it's impacted people differently. So how has the pandemic affected your work?
When 2020 started, I was already freelancing. I think that's been a very difficult feat to accomplish in 2020 because so many people were laid off and without work. A lot of people have been saying that this has been a blessing. It has not been a blessing. I don't think people needed to die for us to slow down. I don't think a deadly virus needed to come and make us slow down. I think that, a lot has changed, but so much more can change for the better. I would say for me personally, fun fact, I'm like a germaphobe. So I love that they're cleaning the trains now. I love that people wash their hands now. I love that there is just more of a concerted effort to do what we should have already been doing. I hate that it took a deadly virus for us to get here.
Absolutely.
We're still alive. We'll be all right.
We're still alive. There's a lot to be thankful for. The media industry is notorious for the overwhelming stress and anxiety that it can cause for people. And obviously, as we've stated, we're still in a pandemic on top of all of that. So what is one thing that you do every day to manage your stress?
I guess sleep.
Okay, that's fair.
I just sleep. I do basic things like sleeping for 8 hours. Not everyone can afford to do that. I used to not be able to afford to sleep for 8 hours. I had so much going on, school, work, two jobs, I couldn't do that before. Now I could do that. So I sleep. So, Styles P, when he went through his whole health journey and he, he opened up Juices for Life and he became more health conscious and he became vegan and he tried to make that accessible, in the areas that he grew up in. Seeing Styles P, his transformation, and just seeing what he preaches every day about just being healthy, cleaning your insides, seeing how that changed his temperament. His diet changed his temperament. He used to be angry all the time. He used to be tired all the time. Changing his diet and incorporating certain things into his diet just changed his life. And for me, I've never been a terrible eater, but I just try to incorporate superfoods into my diet. And just live a healthy life. And I think that helps manage everything. I think it helps manage stress and everything else in between.
Well, that's important, to live just an all around balanced, healthy lifestyle in moderation. It doesn't have to be to the extreme, but like you said, just making healthy choices can make a huge difference. Now, obviously, you're passionate about what you do, and it's obvious that you're walking in your purpose. But if you weren't doing what you do now, what would you be doing?
I really don't know what would I be doing. Like, I would not be working retail. I worked retail for 4 years. Can't do that.
You think would you be in design? Could you be a designer? Do you think a fashion designer?
I don't know. I am into fashion, but I don't know if I have that skill
Maybe you'd be a model.
Maybe, or you know, someone who's like really into nutrition, fitness.
Okay, a nutritionist, yes.
Yeah, or maybe acting or something along those lines.
Okay, cool. Now, this next question, it's important to me because I've been trying to actively and intentionally do this for myself. And I believe that it's powerful when you speak it out loud. So what is an affirmation that you want to set for yourself for 2021?
Is to not be so career focused, because we live full lives. I always had a life outside of my career, but what always comes to mind first is just work. That is what I have to rely on, you know what I mean? Because I'm not coming from a background where I have a financial cushion, or I have that sort of like foundation where I don't need to focus on work, or, you know, making a certain amount, or, you know, being comfortable and sustaining myself. But I think I want to focus on other things outside of work. And I think that what I can focus on it as an affirmation is to also not shrink myself, like you said, and to stand in everything that I am, whether it's too much for people, whether it's too much for my profession, and celebrate yourself too.
If I have to message you when you accomplish something and hold a celebration for you, that's what I'll do. Well, thank you for sharing your affirmations with me. Okay.
Thank you for making me do that. That was a challenge.
Good. I'm glad. So now this is my favorite part of the show. It's where we get to play a game. So today, Ivie and I are going to be playing This or That. Basically, all you have to do is pick one of the two options I give you, whichever is your favorite one, and you have to do it in less than 3 seconds. Okay? You ready?
Okay.
90s R&B or 90s hip hop?
90s hip hop. Oh no, 90s R&B.
90s R&B? Okay. I knew that would get you. Paper books or audiobooks?
Ooh, paper books.
Paper books. New York City or LA?
New York.
Okay. Sneakers or heels?
Sneakers.
Jay-Z or Nas?
Jay-Z.
Instagram or Twitter?
It's Twitter.
Okay. Summer or winter?
Summer.
Meg Thee Stallion or your fellow Bronx babe Cardi B?
I gotta go with Cardi.
Okay. Text or FaceTime?
FaceTime.
Biggie or Tupac?
Wait, you can't give me 3 seconds for that. Oh, wow.
I didn't think this one would get you.
Obviously, I lost the game already, but you have to give me context for what? Music or for overall?
Okay, well, music. Let's say music. Biggie or Tupac?
Oh, music. Big. Let's say big.
Okay. Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Coffee or iced coffee?
Iced coffee.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, you definitely didn't pass the game, but
I lost.
But that was interesting. I didn't think I would stump you on the Biggie or Tupac, but that's how you took it. I was thinking music when I was thinking of them. So
overall.
Okay, that can definitely stump you. So that's fair. Now it's time for Debbie's Injera of the week. If you're wondering what injera is, I'm Ethiopian and it's the staple food of our culture. Injera is the foundation of every meal. So Debbie's Injera of the week is the foundation of what I carried throughout this week. As you heard me in this interview, I spoke with Ivie about affirmations. Now, that's not something I've always been comfortable with. In fact, I kind of thought it was awkward, but affirmations have proven to be very powerful for me. So I want to shout out a good friend of mine, Efrata, who started a club on Clubhouse titled Affirmations and Beyond. And she hosts rooms every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, where hundreds and hundreds of people gather to share their affirmations and manifestations for that day. There is something so powerful about speaking it out loud and sharing it with others that fills you with that strength and power. So I encourage you to write out your affirmations for this week and share them with me on Twitter or Instagram at Debbie Alamru on both, so that I can share them and whoever needs to hear those words can receive them. But Ivie, thank you so much for spending this time with me. It has been a pleasure to get to know you. Again, like I said, you are definitely someone that inspires me as a writer, as a Black woman. It is a joy to watch you blossom and just shine in your lane. And I look forward to following your career. And hopefully one day I'll be able to actually meet you, not through a screen.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, my pleasure.